Hey, I'm excited today. Ryan doesn't know that I've been stalking him for years.
Yes.
I've watched all of his podcasts, all of his YouTube clips, all the times I always explain he's this #1 appraiser for Sacramento. He's on TV and radio and goes to offices, speaks at all the boards. WCR just announced you, Women's Council of Realtors, in a couple weeks. He's all over the place. So today he's going to talk to us about trends in real estate, where we've been, where we are, and hopefully a little forecasting, what the trend looks like for inventory and prices. I'm super excited to have him today. So please give a warm welcome. Stand up to Ryan Lundquist.
Thanks, appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, well, never had that happen before, so always kind of awkward. But so I have a presentation called "What the Heck Should We Do?" Okay, and what I'm going to do is scroll through a bunch of visuals, and we're just going to have conversation. If this goes in different directions, great. I want you to ask questions. I want us to take rabbit trails. Okay, the goal is for you to leave here with some nuggets for the next time you have a listing presentation. Okay, I do have some market stats. I'll share those because we always have to have some numbers in there somewhere. But by and large, we're going to be looking at, hey, what do we do when we see this at a property? How do we pull comps on this? And so are you guys game to have some conversation?
Yeah.
Okay, so what the heck should we do? So you pull up to a house, and what do you notice here?
There's a light switch in the shower.
Have you ever seen this? A light switch in a shower?
Something like it, yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God. I was looking at this.
There's a shampoo. And so I was at a house, and then I was trying to turn on the light, and then I asked the owner, I was like, well, where's the light? And then they just put their hand in the shower and turn on. And so pro tip, whenever you're at a house, look for the light. Okay, I've seen this a few times in recent years, but let me ask you a question though. Is this an FHA issue?
Yeah.
Is it a conventional issue? Okay. Health and safety isn't just FHA. Okay. So yeah, expect an issue, although sometimes appraisers miss stuff, as you know. Sometimes agents walking through a property, a lot of people would miss it because who thinks to turn on the lights? So anyway, so what about this? What about you pull up to your next listing presentation and you have barrels and you have oil. So what's the appraiser going to do when the appraiser shows up?
Maybe you don't have oil, maybe it's popcorn.
Yeah, it could be popcorn in there. So a friend actually bought this property, and a pro tip, if there ever is oil there, you can dispose of it, I think at 5 gallons at a time at various lube stations. And so he contacted all the lube stations around and got rid of significant oil. But if I got out there, I would probably wonder, is there any contamination? And I'm going to make the report subject to someone's got to investigate the soil, especially if it's, this could create some real problems. So make sure it's not there, but if there's spillage, be careful about how you disclose that, right? You don't want to have a new buyer move in and then all of a sudden they found out about this issue. Then it wasn't worth the escrow check, right? What about this?
That's legit.
I saw this recently. I was walking through a property with a landlord, and she was very surprised at what her tenant did, the custom air conditioning system, all right? So, but here's the thing. If we have this going on, what's the rest of the house going to look like? Yeah. So I'm going to look for probably, where are the other fixtures selling for, okay? Not a happy landlord, though. I guarantee rent was going up. So this soaking tub costs $15,000. And so the question is, clearly it's worth $15,000 more in the market, right? Come on, guys, dollar for dollar. You know how this works. So how does this impact value?
Reduces it.
Reduces it? Okay, wait, what about in a retirement community? Is this an asset? Okay, so it depends on the market. We're you don't see these going in the creamery in downtown Sacramento where we're like, yeah, man, come on, millennials, and Okay, so this tub, cost doesn't equal value. It could be a detriment. Let's look to the market for examples. We're probably not going to find this in the comps, but we might look at a property and go, here's the top of the market at $430, and we're going to maybe market this property a little bit lower because it has this. Now, if it's pristine, it's everything amazing throughout, and then it has this, I think people are going to see the big picture and not hone in on the one thing. But here's how I have conversations about this when clients get bent out of shape. I'll say, I've never once seen an investor install one of these in a home. And that's a clue. It's a great talking point, so take that. Now, here's interesting data. I don't think this has ever been published before. I pulled it this morning.
Are we allowed to take pictures?
Oh, yeah. And I can provide, actually, after this, I want to email you guys some links, some stuff you can download. But these are pools in Placer County by price range over the last 2 years of sales. What do you notice by price range, the percentage of pools in Placer County? The higher the price, the more pools there are. So could we say it's safe to expect, or say that the market tends to expect a pool above 2 million when 8 out of 10 properties?
Yeah.
But we would say under 400,000, there aren't that many pools. Granted, there aren't many properties under 400,000 also, but this just shows us the market isn't the same in every neighborhood, right? And so the question becomes, well, what's a pool worth? And I'd be like, well, which neighborhood? The market really expects it here, and so if it's missing, that could be a bigger deal because people are going to say, well, I'm maybe going to have to spend 50 grand to install a pool. All right, if it's missing here, it might not be that big of a deal. Okay, in Del Paso Heights, last time I ran stats, 0.3% of all sales over about 10 years had a pool, 0.3. The market doesn't expect it. So that owner installs a $30,000 pool, it might not sway the market much. Okay, is this cool?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking about doing a blog post with pools in the region. Should I do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is so geeky and cool. So what about here? What's the appraiser going to do? What do you notice?
Walk right in and think nothing of it.
Mini blinds.
Do we notice some issues going on?
Yeah.
Everything's crooked, settling, it's kind of like when you look in old properties especially, look at the door frames because sometimes you can see sort of the door and something's crooked, and an appraiser in this situation, I would just bounce the ball back to the lender and say, hey, this is what I observed. How would you like me to handle this? I'm not going to guess. I'm going to bounce the ball liability. Same thing when there's cannabis at a property. It's personal property, but I'm going to bounce the ball and say, what would you like me to do? Okay, that makes sense? Did that get weird? Cannabis? Okay. No. Okay. So what about here? What's the appraiser going to do? What do you notice? Wait, whoa.
Dark stain.
I'm just playing with you. I'm playing with you. I'm just playing with you. Half the room was thinking about it. Believe me, I give this presentation and everyone says mold, but it's an unknown blackish substance, correct? So now, is the appraiser going to call this out, yes or no? Maybe. I think it depends. Obviously, if this is everywhere, all over the house, then that's where I'd say, hey, there may be a significant issue here. We need to get a qualified professional to check this out. This right here, on one hand, we would go, okay, a $5 spray of Kills at Home Depot can solve this issue. You spray it on there, it's never going to come back. But what if it does come back, right? And so when stuff like this is here, it's kind of, the appraiser might call it out. It might say, a qualified professional needs to inspect it, okay? Because sometimes there have been instances, I have a colleague who's no longer on earth, okay, he died, but in Roseville, he called something out and people were all bent out of shape, but then it ended up being toxic mold. And guess who is the hero, okay, in the escrow? And so it's like I don't want to make a big deal out of this because it's probably nothing. But sometimes when something's there, it's a clue that, well, maybe it is something. And if I've got a license in real estate, I might not want to ignore that. So now, here's your gift. This property is a gift to why?
Because they can sell it.
Okay, this is the highest sale ever in Sacramento County. It sold last year at $5 million. Okay, but it cost $10 million to build. Okay, so this is a great conversation piece when you have an owner who says, I spent $8 million to build this home. Cost doesn't always equal value. I know a couple properties right now on the market that have 3 or 4 million, 5 million more than what they actually cost to build, and they're not selling. Okay, so this is an excellent talking point to carry on with conversation. Do you know that one house in Sacramento County? Guess how much? Isn't that good? Okay, when that seller has $300,000 in rear landscaping, then you say, well, maybe it's not worth $300,000 more. Cost doesn't always equal value. Here's an interesting thing. Does anyone ever go to Kings games?
Yeah.
Very painful year so far. So right next to the stadium is, there's some high-end condos called, does anyone know? There's actually a hint right up there too.
Sawyer.
Yeah, the Sawyer, okay. Now here's all sales in downtown and midtown Sacramento in blue over 20 years. And here are the Sawyer sales. What do you notice about the sales in red?
Very high.
Are they very high? Yeah. So this is a good reminder. You can sometimes have a segment of the market. It's in its own little trend. Okay. It's existing in downtown, midtown, but it's not pulling up the rest of the market. It's sort of like that Jeff Bezos record-breaking sale in California, $165 million. We can be like, the market is going insane. Oh my gosh! But then that sale's not going to pull the rest of California up, and it's the same thing here. And so, of course, everyone wants to price according to the high sale. I would say price according to the comps. Don't get distracted by that one piece of bling. Yeah, Barry?
Those arranged by floor number?
Yeah, it could be. The one at the top, 4.1 million. He's a local guy, not Bay Area. Beverly Hills firm marketed this. I don't think anyone thought this would happen, but he wanted to have a more convenient access to Kings games. So the struggle's real, folks.
And my husband built those, so they were also designed for the players, for the coach. The higher you went up, the more they were, and one player bought the whole one floor, and then he got traded. So it was designed for him, and everything is very tall for a NBA player, so it doesn't really appeal to other people when the sinks come up to here on them.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Like, why are the sinks? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I'll have to ask you about that sometime. So here's a property. How old do you think this house is?
100 years.
That's
a dog, I think.
Okay, first, what went on here? A dog? Yeah. Okay, and how old is this house?
I don't know, 5 years old.
Well, it's a newer door.
A new door. Okay, 2004. And what do you think the rest of the house looked like? Thrash carpet, stains everywhere. I mean, needs. Smell wasn't delicious. Yeah, all those things. So in this neighborhood in Anatolia, this house in Rancho Cordova, there were no comps. There's nothing in that condition for years. I couldn't find it because most of the time we don't see this. And so what do we do, or what would you do when you walk into a property that's only 15 years old, but it's a beater? And so how do you establish value? Ideas?
I would go with what are the trends of model matches if it were in its after rehab value, and then subtract the cost of all the repairs from that.
Okay.
And kind of take that approach.
So that's a good idea. Get in touch with the repairs, because obviously someone is going to at least say, what's it going to cost to repair? If it's an investor, they might go repair plus room for profit and risk, and so it might be lower than the cost.
Yes.
But what about comps? What do we do to find something that's similar?
Anatolia, it's gonna be hard. Did you go outside the area?
Could we could go outside the area? Yeah. Could we go? First of all, we can go many years back. And we can just look at the market. Can we find something similar? How did the market respond? We could always do that. I ended up going to Mather and I went to Stone Creek, two neighborhoods I would never pull comps from, but I pulled data from those neighborhoods because they're newer areas. And I found two beater properties that were 3 or 4 years old. And I just asked, how did the market respond? And in one case, it was easily a 10% reduction in value. The other case was more 10 to 15%. And so can I take those percentages, apply it to today? That's good valuation methodology. So is it ideal? Well, no, but it's kind of what we have, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what do you notice here?
Abnormal construction.
Abnormal. Okay, so what's the story? What are you picking up?
They added on.
Yeah.
Like a garage.
This garage, yeah, which came first? Does this look like,
Maybe it was
was that maybe an addition?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good.
Now, years ago, I haven't shared this on Twitter. It would really trigger people. It used to be a duplex converted to a single-family
Oh
home.
my gosh.
Man, don't mention that stuff online because housing shortage. What did you say? But this right here doesn't show up in the tax roll. So do we add it to the square footage?
If it's done the workmanlike manner?
If it's done, okay, if it's really nice, we add it? Is that kind of how it works?
I think, because I've had homes that added on and they didn't add to the square footage because it wasn't permitted, but they allowed the value to be there.
Okay, so I would recommend, know your market first of all, because in the city of Davis, if you ever list there, if it's not permitted at the close of escrow for over 40 years, Davis comes in, code enforcement, they will make you permit it or it will be ripped out, okay?
Whoa.
Okay, no other locations like that in our market, thankfully. But you see like Azusa, California, different places do that. Like the market can always change, so they're really tight here. But here, not an issue at all. I would suggest include the original square footage, and if this is really nice, maybe try to give it a little bit of edge when you market it, okay? It gets really tricky, but what I would ultimately suggest, find out the story, okay? Call the county or the city without ratting out the property and say, hey, what do your records show is present for square footage? Or can you tell me about permits, okay? You don't want to be like, hey, there's like something that looks like it's not permitted, and because that's how lawsuits happen, right? Don't rat. So,
I've got a question and point on that. So we have agents that list the extra square footage, and same with when you have a secondary dwelling on the property, they
Per the
list
seller.
all of the square footage when it's so you have 3,800 square feet, but it's
Yeah.
only 24 or 2,600 with a 1,200 square foot. So you go out there thinking, and so you should only list the square footage that's,
On the assessor's record.
yeah, you would.
well,
and then
yeah,
say
yeah.
Maybe
I would say,
You need to look how if they filled it in themselves or if it auto-populated,
Well, you can
so then you
do
can do your
that.
due diligence.
Yeah.
You can change it to seller too, because some sellers are gonna have a real issue with that, plus some people, although they want the square footage of the downstairs, some might be willing to do that, but it's a real
Yeah, it's
catch
a
22. I
weird
agree.
business.
Yeah,
I don't know what this
it's
is.
hard.
I'm just curious how
I
you
think
guys handle that.
I think what complicates it is that I wrote a blog post about a month ago that the assessor's records aren't always accurate. They don't always reflect
Right.
what's permitted, because remember, the assessor's role is to levy taxes. And if something's there, they're going to tax you on it, whether it's legal or permitted or not. And so sometimes, I know for a fact, many times, someone will call in and they'll get their square footage updated. It'll say 2,300 square feet, but there might be 500 square feet that is not legitimately permitted. And so if you ever walk through a property and you kind of feel like, guys, something doesn't feel right here, follow up so you at least know and disclose, okay? Or just have that asterisk, it's from the owner, it's from the seller, protect yourself with liability. But I just say, be cautious with stuff like this. Sometimes the market does recognize value, okay? I wrote about a property in Fair Oaks, had a 1,000 square foot non-permitted addition. I'm like, oh my word. So it was 2,400 square feet instead of 1,400. And as an appraiser, that's a tricky problem to deal with. I don't want my name on a lot of appraisals like that, okay? But, the market in that case did recognize it. I hope they don't have issues later with code enforcement and such.
So you actually appraised it as 2400
I did not, but I followed this property. It had struggles getting into contract and staying in contract, I think because of the issue. But it did sell a couple times on the open market as a 2,400 square foot home. I would just say that be really careful about when something is so massive about assigning value there, okay? My sense is that buyers are very forgiving over the small stuff. A non-permitted covered patio, big deal, right? Unless it's at the high end, no, we need permits. That's okay, but buyers are very forgiving, but when it's something so massive, I think it's a huge liability for appraisers to step out there, but ultimately, can we show that there's value? If I'm having some comps and I'm like, look, here's non-permitted stuff, the market's paying for it, that a lender might not want to lend on it. That's a whole different issue, but it might be worth it. So tell that line carefully. But on that note, what do you notice about this? What does it look like?
Converted attic.
Converted attic? Yeah?
Looks like you can't stand up.
Yeah, it does.
And here's me. So I'm bending down and I'm 6 feet. And so how low can you go and still be considered square footage? Like what is the ceiling height that you have to have?
6'8" door and 7 foot.
Okay, you know your stuff. Yeah. This is what she and her husband at dinner, they're talking about like construction. So
The seller says it's 4 feet is acceptable.
Yeah.
All sellers, right?
4 feet acceptable for hobbits, totally cool. Okay, so here's the thing. It has to be at least 7 feet, but if it comes up like this, it's not going to be acceptable 7-foot point. Over 50% of the ceiling has to be 7 feet. Okay, so that's really important to understand. This is clearly not square footage. I think the agent did a great job marketing it, didn't add it in there. But isn't it nice? I mean, someone could use this, right?
Yeah.
An office, like for, you know,
Sound
your
proof,
nursery.
kids in there.
Yeah, you could do a lot of different things in there. It's your kung fu studio, you know, low anyway, yoga studio, your best, you know. But I would just say that for stuff like that, it's probably someone's probably going to pay more for their property, right? But what I did when I appraised this one, I didn't add it in the square footage, but it was, you know, in contract right around 500. And I was looking at sales between 490 and, you know, 510 or so. And I gave this one just a little bit of an extra edge because I felt like the market's going to pay for this. I didn't try to figure out, well, this is worth, you know, $200, you know, per square foot. No. We're not going to find comps like this. So sometimes we just give something a little bit of extra edge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like $5,000 or something?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I would ask if this was 200 square feet, what are people paying in the neighborhood for square feet? You know, if they're paying $100 a square foot, you know, for regular stuff, clearly they're going to pay less for this diminished area. And so I think that's part of it too. But yeah, very minor. This one just sold. Did anyone see it? Okay, so what do you do for comps on a property like this, which is located in the Florin area, South Sacramento? You going to find anything like this?
Not much.
Okay, so what do we want to compare it to? It was actually a beautiful flip, very modern on the inside. So this is your list. You're going to take this listing later this afternoon. What comps are you going to bring? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll just use Tahoe and then adjust for location. Yeah. It's like, this is $3 million minus $2 million. Can we look, first of all, just go, okay, this is 1,700 square feet. What would the market pay if it was normal?
Yeah.
Okay. It's easy to judge this and go, oh my gosh, I would never, ever buy a house like that. But it doesn't matter what I think or what you think.
Right.
The only thing that matters is what the market thinks. So let's ask if it was normal, what would it sell for? But let's also maybe try to find some odd stuff, right? And remember, tech companies are getting into real estate. The best advice I can give you is get really good at the odd stuff. Okay, the non-conforming stuff, the stuff in areas that all these tech buyers don't want to touch. That insulates your real estate career. Okay, so what about this? Has anyone seen this listing?
Oh, yeah. Actually, my client was made an offer on that. Is it the one in El Dorado Hills?
Yeah, close to El Dorado Hills. It's in Folsom.
Or Folsom, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, on that property.
So, and we would call this type of architecture modern or,
Office building.
yeah. I shared this on Twitter and someone said, yeah, that's a nice office, you know. Contemporary. And so what do we want to do for comps on something like this? Wait, let me,
Nick Sadak.
yeah, call Nick.
Referral.
So let me ask you this. Why are we not seeing this in Roseville?
Yeah. It's the topography.
Oh, wait. So these only are on hills? Is that what you guys are saying?
Well, no, but they're trying to optimize all the views, so they're, you know.
Okay, so clearly there's views, but these exist on flat land too. So I get what you're saying, you guys, killer point, but these are on flat land, on hills, and so why are we not seeing it here, whether it's flat or hilly?
It's a contemporary, we're more traditional builders.
HOA.
Okay. Yeah, and so that's a good point. And so each market is different. This trend, if we notice, it tends to be along 50 corridor, closer to Midtown and downtown. Okay. I wrote a blog post, interviewed an agent about I think I called it the rage of modern homes and real estate. It's a really good read because it talks about identifying markets, and a market like this tends to exist closer to Midtown and downtown. So if a client says, I want to build this in, you know, Pollock Pines or some outlying area, you would have to say, is there a market here? Okay.
Right.
Now, stuff like this is showing up, though. Granite Bay, El Dorado Hills just had in Serrano, there's 2 properties on the golf course that are uber contemporary homes. One just sold for, I think it was 3.2 or 3.4, like really high dollar price, okay? So this is coming. I don't think it's coming to Roseville, but it's sort of spreading all around. Aren't we all seeing these straight lines on every time a McDonald's is built, or hey, there's a new modern Starbucks? I mean, it's permeating so much right now. So interesting.
Did that property sell?
What's that?
Did it sell?
It was pending once, and it's listed at 1.8 right now.
It looks
So.
like Eldorado Hills or Cameron Park.
The problem was
Whereas-
the agent knows, well, when we looked at it it was probably over a year ago, the agent knew nothing. Like, they didn't know any of the products in the house. When you sell a high-end house, he didn't know what the wood finishes were, he didn't know what the stonework was.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my
this is being
gosh.
recorded. Be careful. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm sure he's still not listening.
No, I'm just kidding.
What city is that?
So this is Folsom. So, but yeah, it's a good point. You have to know the product that you're marketing. You have to know what buyers prefer. So important. Okay, and this property, it's in the Sac B, and a lot of the really unique properties that get Sac B exposure, some of them don't sell ever because they're not priced right. Okay, and so they're priced $1 million too high, or they're priced hundreds of $1,000s too high. Okay. Now here's a cool way to look at the market. I just pulled these this morning, fresh stats. Have you guys seen this chart? Have you ever seen me share this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is one of my favorite charts because here's the number of offers when looking at every pending in the region right now. And you can see what percentage of pendings have one offer? That's not a trick question. Yeah, 53%. I'm not trying to trick you. And so how many have 1 to 2 offers?
Most of them, yeah, over 70%.
About 74%. You would say that 84% then have 1 to 3 offers. Now, as the market heats up, we see more multiple offers. But it's good to keep in mind that, say your seller thinks that we're going to get 5 offers, and you could say, well, 4% of the market right now is getting 5 offers, and so price for the market that actually exists. If you're priced incorrectly, how many offers are you getting?
None.
You're getting 0, absolutely 0. If you're priced correctly, you're most likely going to get 1 or 2 easily, maybe 3. You're going to be really lucky if you get something like 10. Okay, there's one property that has 36 offers right now. That's the high in Sacramento. And it's just because the market is so hot, right? No, it was priced too low. Okay. Here's a different way to look at multiple offers. This is one of my favorite graphs. You can kind of see the beginning of the year, we get more multiple offers and the market sloughs. Do we see the seasonal rhythm? And what are we seeing happen right now? We're seeing it go up. Now here's an interesting stat. Right now in January, it's the highest January that we've had since this stat came to MLS. And so it's a lot more, here was last year at the same time. We have a much different market than last year, but really over the last couple years before that, we're seeing more multiple offers. It's amazing what happens when you inject that steroid of mortgage rates, right? Yes?
So the common thing that I get a lot is people, and this be agents that do it on purpose, they underprice, so they'll get the 36 offers, right? And I just had a duplex do this. My guy went in 100,000 over asking, and we got beat.
Yeah.
And so what would you say to people that say that? Do you find that that's true? If they underprice it so much that they create a bidding war, or are they actually getting much more higher than what they would have gotten if they had just priced it fairly in the first place?
Gosh, I've never studied that specifically. I think it's a dangerous strategy though, because there's an element of you don't know if it's going to work. And what if you get an appraiser that goes out there and then sees that it was bid up 100,000 and the appraiser incorrectly assumes that it's being overpaid even though the market's there. And so I feel like it's a risky move. I think it's for people who really enjoy communication. Not fun to interact with 36 different agents and buyers. So
If you ever do decide to do that, I'd love to get that posted.
yeah, maybe someday. Yes.
I like to price mine under market and get, usually, maybe at the most we'll get 11 offers, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But the reason I like it is because it puts the seller in the driver's seat on leveraging terms. So instead of being stuck with the terms you're getting from one offer, you'll have buyers that can remove the appraisal contingency.
Yeah, and
So
the luxury of today's market, right?
Right.
So that won't last forever.
Right.
But right now, it's all the rage. That strategy would not have worked at all in 2007 when you're like, please God, give me one offer, right?
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
So I just listed a house on Friday in Rockland, and between 550 and 600. there was only 13 houses on the market. So I
Yeah.
decided to go to the high end just because I knew there was a lack of inventory. We ended up getting multiple offers, all over asking, 2 days on the market. Does that make an impact when it comes to appraisals, that they go, well, look, the market is really willing to pay at the top of the market plus over? Does that make any impact on the
So,
appraisals?
okay, so it's data. I have an appraiser information sheet I'd love to send to you guys. I want you to use it because I want you to tell the story of the property. Okay? A lot of agents are really hands off and then they don't share any information with the appraiser. But then as soon as the appraisal comes in low, they're like, oh, there were 11 offers. And they're like, why didn't you share this information up front? So if I'm appraising something and then there's 7 offers at list or above, and then I'm coming in lower, I'm at least having to ask myself, why am I coming in lower? I'm disconnected with maybe what the rest of buyers are doing, and so it is data to consider. Sometimes though in a market, especially early 2013, it was so insane, values were going up so rapidly that I think clearly in many cases buyers would just offer, crazy prices, and that's not real, and so there is a place for the appraiser going, I know there's multiple offers, that's not reasonable. The appraiser's doing an appraisal for a loan and a lender, and the lender's asking to manage their risk.
Right.
What's the highest price ever? Jeff Bezos paid that, but with the rest of the market, the rest of the market can't afford it, but
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right.
Do you see your job as purely that of protecting the bank's interest on a loan, or also protecting the consumer from, maybe they're from San Jose and they think 800,000 is a bargain, where it's not? What do you see your job as an
So
appraiser?
the appraiser's role is not to, I don't play on anyone's team. I'm not there to help anyone get into contract, close anything. I would just say, I'm painting a picture of market value. And whether it works or doesn't for anyone, that's not my prerogative. But I am, as I'm doing my job, I'm answering that question for the bank, should we do this loan or not? And so I'm not tied to that, whether it happens or not, but I am going through a specific criteria over condition and things that they would look at. So, yes.
I was just gonna say too, I just had a property that we just sold in West Park, Roseville, and we already knew that we were pricing it about 25,000 above the highest comp we could find. However, it has like the largest backyard I've ever seen in
Yeah.
West Park, and like a $70,000 2-year-old pool, which I know they're not gonna get that, but there was enough more there that I was like, I really feel like if the appraiser gets it, he'll give it the value because of all these added things. I met the appraiser, I already had comps, I got very creative with the comps, making sure I pulled ones that were like, but made sure they weren't in any of the gated communities around.
Smart.
I bought the receipt for the pool that showed 75,000, and that did not include the putting green, the built-in barbecue, the fire pit. And it was a VA appraiser, so the seller was super nervous because they went 100% financing because they're from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
They were stoked. They're like, we can get a 3,500 square foot home with a pool instead of paying rent for that.
Yeah.
So, but it came in at value, but that one I was.
Yeah, a nail biter. You kind of always wonder, and I just say, no matter what the market's doing, price according to what is similar and actually getting into contract. Okay, I have some other slides on that to sort of unpack, but I like where this conversation's going. It's going to complement what I show in just a sec. What do you notice here?
Ocean view.
This is me on vacation. You never take away your real estate. So, Santa Monica. What do we see here though? Something being built, and there's a
View.
Yeah, there's literally $1 million view. $1 million views don't exist in our market, right? Unless it actually sold for $1 million more because of the views, right? But now what do you notice below this property? So what do we want to be aware of? If you take this listing, what do you want to be aware of?
Location, proximity.
Zoning. What is allowed here? Because what if you sell this property and go, hey, $4 million property, and then these guys raise this and build something. Know your zoning, okay?
Yes.
But here's a local example. Does anyone know what street this is located in Granite Bay? It faces the lake.
Yes.
It faces the lake and there's a shore. It faces the lake and there's a shore. Okay, you guys got it. So here I am right here, standing in this person's living room, and there's a view of the lake, right? I would go down, chopping those trees, but the view is through a vacant lot.
Right.
But what happened recently? Someone bought this vacant lot. And I'm guessing that they probably didn't just buy it for pleasure. They're probably going to build something. And this house is no longer going to have a lake view. So whenever something backs to open space, just ask the question, what is the space done for? Call the city. Don't even look in tax records at the zoning. It doesn't matter that tax record says AR or whatever. Tax records is not the definitive source. Call the county or the city. That'd be my advice.
Offer one more suggestion. This happened. My brother owned this house. That was his view. And they had a garage where this was, so he said they built a second story on top of the garage, completely blocking the view. So my brother went down and said, man, I've lived here so long, we love this view. Is there any way you could lower your roof line? They had the truss up and everything. They go, done. They lowered the roof.
Oh.
Say the view's that. Good luck getting that one through in the future, but we got it done. It's called a Gove bounce.
I was just
Yeah, that's a hashtag if I've ever heard one. So
They literally pulled the truss out and lowered the roof.
that's amazing. Yeah.
So
Okay, you got a question here. So
I have a client I'm working with. I'm trying to price her property, and then she has a backyard that's higher than the rest of the house.
Yeah.
She has a small backyard, but then she has a big lot that's connected to her house that's raised up.
Oh.
It keeps climbing, has a slope, it turns into
Okay,
a mountain.
yeah.
So how would you add the square footage of that? It would still be compared to the regular
okay,
backyard square?
hold that thought. I have a slide with that very thing. So you're on it. Did you guys preview today? This is awesome. So hold that thought. We'll get there. So okay, real quick. What's the difference between a gas water heater and an electric water heater?
One uses
Solar.
One uses gas. Okay, we got that. Thank you. That's also a Gove, whatever that hashtag was. So. Okay, how do we identify? Because you want to look like an expert to your client when you're standing in the kitchen, you've gone through the garage already, and you want to have clues. So how would we know?
One has a gas vent.
Okay, gas vent. Do you notice the electric does not have the gas vent? Do you notice the pilot light? There's no pilot light because you're not lighting gas on the electric, and then there's a gas line.
So electric, it doesn't have to be up on the pedestal either?
Electric in the garage doesn't have to be on the pedestal. Okay.
Inside the house.
Gas or electric in the house does not need to be elevated. Gas is only elevated in the garage. Okay. And so unless they have these water heaters that they're kind of high tech, you can technically have a special gas one that is on the floor. Most of them aren't like that. But let me test your knowledge. Which one is the gas and which one's the electric?
gas is on the left.
Because here we see this vent. Okay. Now I was with a homeowner in Roseville the other day off of Baseline Road, and I was able to sound like an expert because I went in and I said, hey, I noticed that you have an electric water heater. Does that mean that you're all electric here? And he said, yes. Right? And so just a pro tip, just something to be aware of, because then you're like, that person knows their stuff, right?
What if it's under the house in the dirt?
You know what?
I'm taking a listing right now.
I would call the city or county and just ask them what.
And it's electric. Now I can tell because you just taught us how to know.
Yeah.
But
So
okay.
I would call the city or county and just ask, is it okay to have this?
It's
Okay.
a
Yeah.
basement. It's a raised
So.
foundation. Yeah. Interesting.
Now, what do you notice for prices? Here's the median price in the region since 2014. What do we notice about change?
Starting to slow down.
Do we see that? This is really, really important. What can we say?
Slow it down.
Could we say that the market's decelerating? That doesn't mean that it's declining. It's still going up. It's just not going up as rapidly as it used to. Now, right now, we might, if we have this crazy mortgage rate situation, we could maybe see some of this change. Maybe the market would accelerate again. We never know what the market's going to do, but wouldn't this be good to share with sellers who are prone to overprice? Just take this image to your listing. I have it new every single month to say, here's the market that actually exists. We need to price accordingly. It's possible, guys, to have a really competitive market without major price growth also. So everything's getting more multiple offers. That doesn't mean that prices are skyrocketing up either. Buyers are really sensitive about paying the right price. Okay, so divorce yourself between those two things. Price growth and how the market feels can be different. Okay, we'll know the market's going up if you see all your pendings way up here. Okay, obviously the market's going gangbusters.
The SACB, I guess, put out an article last week and it freaked out one of my sellers.
I was quoted in that one.
And they said, oh, it's going down, and they call me freaking out because their house was about to go on the market, and I gave them that chart, and they were like, oh, okay, I have nothing to worry about.
You know what? It was, I know I had a couple people reach out like, what the heck, Ryan? And I was like, dude, I gave a quote for the article. I didn't write the title, you know. It's one of the reasons why I wrote a blog post this week about the market that is hot, but we have dull stats from January. Totally different things. It's going to take a month or two for the stats to look sexy.
Yes, I saw that.
Right now, the stats look really dull, and we'll see the market eventually, okay? So it's like election results. The election happens, someone has been elected, we just don't know yet who it's going to be. Or it's like planting something, okay, in a garden. You know that something's growing there, but you don't see it for a couple months. Same thing with real estate data.
That's what I was looking at your 2020 there. Does that mean you're only going from January 2020?
This is past 12 months, and so this would be February 2019 through January 2020. So these are 12 months, and so there's a lot of data there, okay? And so, but here's a case in point. I pulled some stats for a neighborhood association the other day. It's always cool when people reach out to you like that because you know that, okay, great, I'm having an inroad. But it's interesting. Here's Southland Park. You can see very subtle price change over the past year. Now, could that change in coming time if, you know, mortgage rates, etc.? Of course, but I just find that sometimes when I'm pulling stats, it's more subdued, okay? Could it be more aggressive at the lower end? Of course. Here's my sense. The entry point to every market is more aggressive. So in Roseville, I mean, gosh, can you get anything under 400? No way. And so that market is super tight. In East Sacramento, anything under 450. In South Sacramento, anything under 250. Whatever the price point is, the market's more aggressive there, okay? Here's an interesting property. Has anyone seen this in Midtown? Okay. How many stories is it?
It looks like
Four stories. And what is this? This is a 4th story. What does it look like?
Is it a flat?
I'm not trying to trick you. Does it look like square footage? Does it? Okay. It's permitted as a sun deck.
Wow.
So here's the clue. I want to give you a couple clues. First of all, if you're in the city of Sacramento, in the link I send, hopefully someone can get it to everyone or give me your cards or something. There's a development tracker. Anything in the city, look up permits online, and it shows clearly that this space up at the top, and then there's a workshop downstairs, that there's about 1,000 square feet of non-habitable space that you can't habitate, okay? So here's the clue though. You walk in throughout the house, there's central heat and air ducts everywhere, but then you go to the 4th floor and there's nothing. Wow. So let your eyes go to the vents on every floor you're at, because sometimes that's a clue. Or you go in and you go, that's weird. Why is there a mini split system on the wall here?
Right.
Like, how come everything else is central? Like, tell me the story. And then the owner says, you ask, was it permitted? And then they say, yes, it was permitted. But the only question that matters is, what was it permitted as?
Yeah.
Okay? And people pawn off square footage all the time, but in this case, if it's permitted as a sun deck, be really careful. So this property actually sold on the open market. And then next door is actually listed now too because it's a halfplex. Wild property. I think it's 17 feet wide, really skinny. But anyway, what about this?
Oh, yikes.
Detriment to value?
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's more privacy.
What is the detriment? What's the cost of that?
Okay, so here's the thing. Our initial instinct is that, oh, this is a negative. It doesn't matter what you think or what I think. Could we look at sales right here in the court and really determine, is this an issue or not? Let's look that up. Sometimes I would say price it as if there's no issue and then let the market decide. Okay. Sometimes with something like this, if it's really bad and I mean there's some gnarly stuff going on here, then you could be like, okay, I need to find some comps with some gnarly stuff. But sometimes I think we overthink stuff. We could also look and ask, has this property sold a couple times in the past? Could we look at the previous sale and know, was it an issue? Maybe that's a clue. Yes?
Would you put in the same, I mean, it's a different category, but would you do the same thing if there was a violent murder in a home? Nice area, something kind of like that. But
Yeah.
if there was a violent murder in the
You don't
home.
need to disclose that.
Pricing.
That was that other hashtag. Good job.
How would you think that would impact the value of the home?
Yes,
Okay.
Darcy, how would it?
So that's a big question.
Very odd question.
And there's no straightforward answer, okay? Sometimes it's going to depend on the price range, the neighborhood, what happened, when it happened. I have graphs of the Dorothy Puente house, the Scott Peterson house in Modesto. Email me, I'll share that with you. Sometimes it looks like there's no reaction at all.
I think I read it like
Okay.
over 3 years. It has been over 3 years that you don't have to disclose it.
So whether you have to or whether you should, those are two different questions. I would say I'm on the side of, I'm not a broker, I would disclose the heck out of that. But look to the market. I appraised something in the Pocket neighborhood that had a suicide murder in it, and it definitely impacted value. At the end of the day, it looked like it was about 10% or so. But I have sort of this murder Word document where I have like about 20 properties in there. I talk to agents and then I call them like, hey, how did this impact things? And sometimes they're like 5%. And sometimes it's like, well, the market was really hot and we didn't see any impact. So if the market's rapidly declining, guess which property is going to stand out like a sore thumb that nobody wants, you know? So depends where though too. So this property, and I have some other stuff, premium during an election year probably, right? So let's skip through some of this stuff. Where should we go? Look for other fixers. We know that. This one is going to be flipped in Midtown. Repair estimate $300,000, right? So yeah. So what do we do with this?
Give it to Nick Sadak.
So we kind of have we call it maybe a Moorish architecture. Okay. Easy to judge. This was me on vacation, but very cool kind of modern Moorish thing. I would say let the market decide. You know, see what happens. What about this?
Also Nick Sadak.
This is a friend, an appraiser colleague took this photo. What is the clue about location here?
Flood. It looks like hurricanes.
Okay, it's on the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's not get bogged down with that one. Let's not get bogged down with this. I think the most complicated house probably to value in the region.
Is that the one on Folsom Lake?
Yes.
Yeah, the shipwreck house.
Yes.
So,
Oh, did you see the inside of that?
so
Is it still on the market?
it's not on the market any longer.
Someone
So,
buy
But
it?
did it actually sell?
Yeah, did it sell?
you know, it made headlines. It did not sell. So, two different things. Yeah. So sometimes we look at a property, let's compare it to something unique, let's test the market, but I think you're not going to find like the Navy ship house and like the submarine house. Let's find unique stuff, but sometimes we just step back and ask, what's someone willing to pay for something like this? Or is there even a market for it?
Right.
Okay. And someone's obviously going to buy this, but you know, clearly not at 4 million or 3 million, whatever it's listed at. Let me get some other stuff here. Let's look through. Okay, let's get to you. So what do we do with something like this? This is located in El Dorado Hills. Does anyone know the name of the neighborhood? It was also a private equity fund who bought a ton of properties in 2012. Blackstone. Okay, just testing your investment knowledge. So what do we do with something like this? It's a huge lot on paper. Is it okay just to say this is 0.40 acres, let's compare it to other homes that are flat? Is that really comparable? Okay, so here's what it looks like in the back. Here's a backyard, very skinny. Here's a side yard. It's an okay, now technically you can fit a pool there. Remember, some price ranges are going to want a pool, so that's good, but ultimately, maybe let's look to some other sales that have a similar setup.
Yeah.
And could we ask, even if this home isn't similar, could I just look it up and go, how did it compete on the open market compared to what was otherwise similar? And so I'm trying to extract value from the market. I'm not guessing going, well, I think that let's just test it at 900. And like, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it at least. So does
On
that?
the city record, it says 15,000 square feet.
Yeah. And so on paper, it looks huge.
Yeah.
And maybe there's extra value because of privacy. We've got to look to the market for the answer, though. There was something in the Curtis Park neighborhood that was 0.40 acres, but it had this weird lot that just went out, you know, forever, and there's nothing you could do with that.
Right.
So when I appraised it, I'm like, this is extra land. It's excess. It's not going to contribute to the value.
Yeah.
So sometimes we make that judgment call. On paper, it's 5 acres, but then it's split, you know, between a road and 4 acres are on the other side. Guess what? This is my best comps are probably going to be on an acre, right? Someone, you know, unless you can do something really cool with 4 acres across the highway, paintball field or something, right?
Could they sell the lot by itself?
I don't know. It depends on the situation, but you know, in something like this, obviously no. But that other one, sure. So, okay, this is the last slide. What do you guys notice? The double oven. Okay, so what is going on here besides a golden social media opportunity? Maybe. There's an asterisk next to that, but why are there 2 ovens?
They wanted a double oven and they didn't buy a nice one.
They run a daycare.
They run a daycare. Yeah.
No, elder care.
Okay. All right, so technically, I'm not entirely sure in Elk Grove when I appraised this property, but I appraised one in a different neighborhood. There were 2 ovens, there were 2 microwaves, and 2 dishwashers in the kitchen. So why was that?
Culture. Multifamily.
What's that?
Culture. Jewish.
Kosher. So here's my pro tip. Be really careful when you see 2 of something because it's easy to go into blast mode on social media and go, oh my gosh, look at this, ha ha ha. And then everyone's going, oh, you're dissing my religion.
Right.
Ooh. So on that note, here's my cell phone. If you guys aren't connected with me, that's my number. You can text or call anytime. You can email me. I might have a blog post that's relevant for your situation. If you need to talk sellers into pricing correctly, I got data for you every single month. It's for you. There's stuff for your newsletters. Tell the story of the market. Don't do what everyone else and their mom is doing in real estate. I'm going to be the TikTok realtor. I'm going to be be you. Be authentic. Stop getting swept up in the craze of whatever is current. Okay. How old were you when you bought your first home, by the way? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, what was that
so
about?
I have a weekly blog. You can check that there. But there's my contact information. It's there for you. If you're too busy, I understand. But once a month, I do have that huge market update. It's a long read. You can also skim it. There's golden nuggets for you, though, guys. And so I hope that was helpful. I think we have 5 minutes left. Do you guys want to talk, or are you just done? You need to get out of here. We've had too much conversation.
I just wanted to make one comment about Ryan's cell phone, because I've buzzed him a few times over the years. And the last one, I can't remember what it was about. It was something kind of complicated, and I texted him because I know he's a busy guy. He was like, no, call me, let's discuss this. So
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you, because most people nowadays don't want to give you that kind of time. I mean, he didn't make any money from helping me out with that one, but.
Oh yeah, no, and it's always good because I might say, hey, I've got 30 minutes ahead of me where I'm going right now. So I might say, can you call me at 11 o'clock? And then I'm yours for 30 minutes. That's no problem.
Yeah, we talked on the way here. And it's crazy.
Hey, I'll be efficient if I can, right? It's a juggling act. Teenagers and life and business.
I get
Yeah. Any last issue that we want to close with? Okay, I think that means that we're done. Let's not beat the dead horse. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
That was outstanding, Ryan. Thank you so much. How do you think we learned and grew a lot today? It's real estate professional.
Right on, right on.
Yeah. The worst question is the one you don't ask. Ask lots of questions. You have people who know a lot. Chris here from Rent Pros is an expert. Really understands this stuff. Obviously, Krista knows a lot. Cindy, there's people you can call who get this at a high level. Obviously, Ryan knows a little bit, and he offered his cell phone number. Some are like, well, I don't want to bother him. So you'll push ahead and do something crazy, And so the best way to make the right move is ask a lot of people. Does that make sense? If you get an answer, I've got an answer from a RE/MAX manager or a Keller Williams manager, broker, or even an EXP broker. I just didn't like it. Didn't set with me. Keep pushing, and you'll find out they're human beings and capable of error. So when everybody has consensus that's been doing this for 20 or 30 years, and that's a good reason to be a part of the Women's Council of Realtors, or NAREP, or ARIA, or you go down to the Placer County Board and get to know a guy like Mike Bailey and different people who've been around. If they don't know, they'll turn you on. They'll go, oh, here, I'm going to call Ryan Lundquist right now. Like, oh my gosh, you have his phone number? Yeah, me and Ryan are friends. And you can call him up and he can answer some questions. Does that help?
Yeah.
So, a couple things. Number one, we do this every Thursday right here from 10 to 11. Real estate training, help your business grow. We study the industry. We take our craft, our profession to a higher level so you can be more intelligent, articulate. And the best way to sell these homes with a mold is send a painter to fix it. Right? The door, send your contractor over or to put on a new door, new frame. carpet and paint does miracles. We'll give you the money. We can give you $20,000, $30,000 to fix up the house. Not a problem at all. There's money. And they go, well, I've had some of the days someone goes, well, I'll give you the listing if you lend me $30,000. And the agent's like, yeah, right. I would say yes, all day. No problem. Here's my money, man. His name is so-and-so. I'm not going to say it because it's being recorded. But here's the deal. He's my guy, right?
Right.
And he'll give you $30,000 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you serious? And so you should say, yes, absolutely. I have a department that will do that for you, and done. And when you can help put something in the market that's gorgeous, instead of a bird turd, or something with mold, or where it's janky, or, have it fixed before. Is that the best way to go on the market?
Yes.
Definitely.